Few days after Canelo versus Crawford, if you guys haven't heard, Canelo said that Crawford's better than Mayweather. Let's break that down. Let's get into that because that's a crazy statement. It's not a crazy statement. It's just crazy to hear coming from Canelo Alvarez. I thought he was going to say they were both great fighters, but he said that Crawford is better than Floyd. That's crazy. Let's think about that a little bit. I think my biggest question is, would Crawford have beaten Canelo if Canelo, let's say, never got beaten by Floyd or Bivol, of course, but mainly Floyd, because Floyd was the first person to do it. You know, because there's a blueprint to beat Canelo, did that allow Crawford to handle business a little bit easier? You know, I think most, people would believe that Crawford would have handled business, right? But it's still something to think about, right? Because Floyd, at the end of the day, did it first. Floyd was the first person to ever beat Canelo Alvarez. You can say everything, oh, he was young, he was green, it was a low weight class, weight drain, whatever the case may be. But Floyd was still the first person to beat Canelo and show the world that this dude can be beaten. This Mexican fighter, yeah, he's good, he's got talent, but I can beat him easily. That's the thing that, makes me think about this conversation between, whether or not Crawford's better than Floyd's better than Canelo. It's tough because Floyd already did it first. He was the first person to do it. Just because you start beating a guy after doesn't necessarily mean that, you're better than Floyd. You know what I mean? It's a tough conversation, but the thing is, Crawford did it where Canelo was comfortable. There's that side of the coin and argument as well, because, at the end of the day, Canelo wasn't weight drained. He had more experience now, but there's also the flip side where people are saying he's not in his prime anymore. But then you can use the argument, oh, Crawford is the older fighter, so who's really out of their prime? Crawford was able to beat Canelo despite being older, and there's just so much conversation for it. But head to head, it's hard for me to pick Crawford over Floyd. I'm not gonna lie, just because Floyd was so difficult to hit, man. Like, I know Crawford made Canelo look like a cakewalk, and that was really fun to watch, in my opinion. Some people said it was a boring fight, and I'm not saying it was competitive, but it was a masterclass. I enjoyed watching that. I think, that's a fight that I'll definitely enjoy watching, over and over again, because Canelo's not an easy fighter to beat. He has that come forward Mexican style where he likes to pressure you and try to land a big shot that's going to put you to sleep. But Bud also showed, how he could do it as well. He didn't exactly do it like Floyd. That's the thing. Like, he put his own style on it. He took more risks, I'd say. He sat in the pocket longer, exchanged a little bit more, and threw more combinations than Floyd did. But both of them, outclassed Canelo just at different times. Floyd did it when Canelo was younger, but, a little bit faster, a little bit closer to his prime. And then I think now, Canelo got beat by Crawford when he had more experience, but also his gas tank, wore out as well. He aged a little bit worse than Crawford did, despite, Crawford being the older between Canelo and Crawford. But it is what it is. It's just a tough comparison. It's one of those fights, unfortunately, we're never going to see. But Crawford and Floyd, definitely some of the best American fighters of all time. Best fighters of all time, in general. But I still think, I have Floyd ahead. I still have Floyd and Pacquiao ahead of Terence Crawford. But it's not because, I'm trying to take away credit. I know you guys are going to be like, what does Crawford need to do? He fought everybody he could. He even, went on multiple weight classes. And for me, I'm like, yeah, I know it sucks, but it's just my opinion. Canelo is a good fighter, but I don't think that, just beating Canelo is enough to make you the greatest of all time. I think, Floyd and Pacquiao, their resumes are impeccable. They have crazy names. De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, there's just so many crazy names. Shane Mosley, the list goes on and on. Canelo's on Floyd's resume. Pacquiao has Morales, Barrera, Marquez, and Floyd has Marquez as well. Miguel Cotto, it's just tough for me to put Terence Crawford in that category, but he definitely put himself up there as an all-time great after beating Canelo Alvarez. There's no doubt about that. But, I know for some people he's going to say, people are going to say that their GOAT is Terence Crawford, and I respect that, but just for me, I just look at Pacquiao and Floyd, from the fighters that I got the privilege to see. And I don't talk about guys like Ali, Mike Tyson, because I'm technically, too young to talk about that kind of stuff. Obviously, I've seen all the highlights, all the fights. I've watched so many of their fights. But from the fighters that I've seen, I think it's still Floyd, Pacquiao. Those guys, their resumes are just so crazy. And Terence Crawford has not the best resume. People criticize him, but he still beat Canelo. That's a big one. And, to do it going on multiple weight classes is very impressive, and he did it so easily. So definitely an all-time great in the history books for, you know, Terrence Crawford, but not my GOAT. I will say that, but he deserves a lot of credit for how easily he dismantled and made Canelo look like so average. But that is what it is. Let me know in the comments who you guys think was better. I think Floyd's still better than Crawford, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time. Peace.